Welcome back to Kali Konversations
With me, Rick.
and me, Nain.
And look who we return guest, Danny.
Is he really a return guest? Isn't he just kind of like somebody we can't get rid
Just
of?
a guest. Or
A
can't
guest? Yeah.
Guess what? I'm here.
get- So today we are.
Deal with it.
All the noise that you hear is because we're at a camping site. We're at Lake Amador, right, Danny?
Yeah.
We've been here for the weekend. Did a little
Training
bit
all
of
day.
training
Yeah.
with one of the students and of course family. Danny's family joined us on this trip.
You joined me on this
Oh
trip.
yeah, we actually hijacked the trip. So
Yeah, we just showed up. I was told to be here. I don't know. I just showed up. That's all I
just-
get. Brought sticks and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Anyway, hello everyone.
Yes, welcome back.
So, me and Nain were talking about a couple of things, but while we were waiting for Nain to get to the campsite, which is today, me and Danny were here yesterday, and he and I got to talking. And there's one thing that we talked about, which we got from the idea of Dennis's, who's a good friend, Dennis Duarte. He had posed a question of what would you do, and that's his theme that he's trying to see what people would do, and we're all supposed to submit some kind of a what would you do to this. And Danny, what did we decide on that? Or what was our thought?
The idea there could be so many numerous answers, even to the single idea, that it's almost impossible to pinpoint down to one. Of course, everybody has their own suggestions on what they would do, but to answer it truthfully, were you even ready to do it that way? That was my first question. Whatever that may be, were you ready for that? Did you have to switch to get to that point?
Were you in
And
that
be
spot?
ready?
And you're
Were
talking
you
about
already in
switching
that-
your feet or your body or
right,
what?
and having to come in whether you're going to crash or flow with that energy. Were you actually ready for that? And did you have to set yourself up to receive it that way, or take care of it in that manner? That was
Yeah,
the first
you know,
idea.
And when I looked at it, or at least when I thought about it, I had the impression that, everything is counterable and everything is not
Not
counterable
Given time.
given time. Only
Given time.
because if I have the time, yeah, I can handle that. If
course.
I don't have the time, obviously I can't. So where am I at in that movement of theirs? Am I in the right place? Like Danny says, do I have to switch or whatever else? So it's a hard question to answer because, one, when you're posing the question, do you give enough of the parameters?
Right. Is there enough situation? I actually appreciated somebody posted on the same group this video of this woman coming up to this man. He turns around and she headbutts him. Starts bleeding immediately and she keeps on attacking him. And I posed half jokingly, but it dawns on me now that it's a kind of a more appropriate question to ask. Okay, what would you do in that situation?
Yeah, and that's what's being already hit or being
You just got
swung
hit,
at.
you're bleeding, it's a woman that's still attacking you, what do you do? And I think Dennis had one of the best response. He would say, oh, okay, well, I would take it and then call my lawyer.
Yeah, where
which
I'm
is
at,
which
yeah.
is not a martial arts centric idea, but it's definitely, I think, a more applicable real world concept
What would you do?
to take on.
Because anytime, to me, anytime you say, well, what would you do in this instance?
Right.
Then it also invites the old question of, well,
What if?
yeah,
What
if they
what
did this, if they,
Right.
what if?
And that's an endless conversation.
Yeah, because that just goes forever and ever. And I've always hated that. We had a student who would always ask me, well, I go, that becomes a rhetorical, it's not ending. Well, if
Kind
you
of
do that,
defeats
then,
the purpose
then,
of
well,
the
what
learning.
if I do this? Well,
Right.
what if I do that? Well,
Okay, so what we actually came up with is because of our traditional training, then you're almost forced to give a specific answer,
A technique.
a technique, more or less, right? And again, given the situation, yes, you can have a technique against whatever the proposed what would you do.
Right, given the time to figure out how to use that technique in that
So,
situation.
and of course, we came up with, without thinking of a technique, well, what would be the right or proper answer? I said, I would be thinking of, Rick, go ahead.
well, if I'm doing this, I would be thinking of, okay, where am I in this situation? Where am I going, and what am I trying to do to this person?
Right. Despite whatever they're doing to you.
Right. Whatever. What are the situations that are at hand?
Mm-hmm.
Because one, do I go and kill the guy, or do I just defend myself, or what is the thing?
But to give a specific answer,
right.
what would that be? Now, what did I say?
Danny said something to the effect that
I would be thinking of my range and timing. That is what I would do. Because if I can think of my range and timing, then I can think about what I need to do.
Right.
But those are the two things I need to know first.
and the importance of that is because if you don't know where you are in this particular fight,
Exactly.
then how would you really respond
Right.
to that?
Right.
Well, the range will give me the time.
Right.
Right? My own timing will either dictate if I'm going to hit first, hit at the same time, or hit after it passes me.
And what's
If
that
I
thing that
allow
we
it.
have that's called for that? What do we call that? Being on time, being late, or being early.
Yeah.
That's right.
So how do we really determine, what would you in that? You just really, it's
Well,
a hard
and
question.
again, it's your awareness is for one. But again, we're looking for, because of a traditional training and how everyone else was trying to answer, they were trying to pinpoint it down to one simple answer.
Or one
But what would our
technique.
be? My response would be, I need to know my range and timing first before I can think about what I can do.
And I feel that just breaks down to the idea of what is your mindset?
Right. And
What-
what is
what-
what is the opponent's mindset?
Right,
What
right.
trying
Are
to
they
do?
there to feed you something, as we do in dojos? Are they there to maliciously attack you, to do more than that, or just
But
to
I think
threaten
that's
you?
a given in that, the malicious part of it. I think
Right.
that's given in that. In
Okay.
these scenarios,
Oh,
we're
right.
saying, okay, here,
He's
this
already
guy's
attacking.
this
So
guy's
we
coming
give
to hit
that,
you.
okay. There's
And
no
what do you do
escaping
to
it at this point, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think that's already a given thing. But even in that case, it's hard to pinpoint the one thing that you would really do because, again, depending where you are, where they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables that can affect, from environment to time to who else is around.
So, do we agree that that's almost an unfair question based on?
Well, if you're looking for a technique, then any given technique can work or not work. Let's go back to that.
I think it's more of a probing question to see where people's minds are at.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head because that's Dennis.
Yeah, he's always trying to see
He's trying
where.
to see where people are
Uh-huh.
and what their mindset
here.
is and how they're thinking about what's going on. If you pose a simple question as how do we get from point A to point B,
Right.
well, where's point B at?
Yeah, how do you take in information and how do you ascertain what's important and what isn't?
But the person answering, where's their mindset at?
Right.
And they're thinking technique. Oh, I would use this technique against that.
Well, then that's the mindset that
That's
they
the mindset.
personally
And that's why
have.
you have those answers that
And
come up
that's
that
why
way.
you do have the answers the way that they're going to come out.
Right.
All right.
It's
So
an open
I think
discussion.
that closes that whole question then.
for us anyways.
Again, depending on
Yeah.
who, on where you're going with it and
Right.
what you're trying to
And
do.
who's answering it?
right.
And of course, everybody will have different answers.
Right.
We can all agree that any one of those techniques can work.
In the proper
Right.
place, proper time.
Yeah, and you can make it work. If it doesn't work, we always tell our students, if it doesn't work,
Make it work.
make it work. So,
How do you make it work?
right, then you have to figure out what that is. Well,
But it goes back to the mentality behind your actual training.
yeah.
Where's your mindset when you're doing these things?
Your
Are
own
you doing it
capability.
to repeat the technique or make it work in that specific situation? Or are you dissecting it to understand what are the components that make that technique work in this situation, and can I carry those components on to any other situation and repeat the process?
Okay.
Yeah, I've always been leery or worried
Uh-huh.
that when you hear an instructor, and I've had this happen to me all the time back in my Kempo days, if somebody does this, you do this.
Bar none, like that. That's just
That's
a rule.
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
When somebody throws this punch, you do this, or you do that, and it's very set.
But that's assuming that they all punch the same way you guys do in the class.
Yes, definitely. And that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
It's never going to be that.
How does that work outside?
Yeah, and I think that becomes the better question. When you're outside, what do you do
Right.
when this happens?
When you don't have your
Because you
key
can't
and-
use a technique in the classroom atmosphere and bring it outside and have the same effect. It just isn't going to happen. When that guy's throwing a particular thing, that could be a haymaker. How do you deal with that? How do you know?
Yeah, it's not the straight punch that you already
right.
that you deal with.
Because or it's not even one of the angled strikes that we all know and love.
There you go. There you go. To make a Star Wars reference, right? The Sith deals in absolute, and you can't. You cannot deal in absolutes when it comes to something as chaotic as a fight can be.
Yeah, but the Sith aren't determined enough to take action when they need to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why the Sith were able to overcome them. But we can discuss Star Wars, and that's a whole different, that's a whole different show altogether.
That's another conversation.
Yeah. But in reference to the teachings, if we're going to use the Sith and the Jedi as teaching materials for martial arts, yeah, you have the Sith that are absolute. This is how it works. This is how it should be. It needs to be done this way, and if you don't, then you're my enemy. The Jedi then have the same context of, no, we're just going to kind of flow with things. We're going to do things. But when you need to be decisive,
then you are.
And if the movie show us anything, the Jedi weren't as decisive as they should have been.
Right. Or as they could have been.
They needed the sequels. So,
like I said, it's a different discussion. But going back to the question of itself is, what would you do?
What would you do?
Like Rick said, would you go dark side and just kill the guy? Would you go Jedi and try to peacefully stop the situation only to be attacked yet again?
Right.
Starting the situation all over again? Or would you have some sort of mindset that's in between? You're willing to go that far, but you're going to ascertain that situation per that moment. And if that's the case, you can't answer the question.
You cannot.
No, it almost becomes an impossible thing. Because if we're standing here and somebody are about to do something now, then you can say, well, what would you do?
That's more like, this is what I did.
Yeah, right, it becomes that.
Right.
Or this is what I was taught to do.
That's a valid point.
This is the way I was taught to do.
Because repetitive of that situation or that idea where this is what I taught, I do these moves, I do these moves without content, and then you automatically do it because now it's ingrained in you. It's muscle memory, and it doesn't work.
It may not even be the proper thing to do. But that was what I was taught to do.
Well, and I like that you said that, because here's the thing. It might not be the proper thing to do because at that moment you really don't know what's coming, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even though somebody says, oh, what would you do in this instant? Well, that implies to me that it already happened.
Right, there's already a framework for it.
Then it's posed that question, what would you do if this happens? And then even Master Green put up, what would you do in this instance? That may already happen. Well, it's like, what would you have done is
more of an accurate question.
More accurate question, right?
How would you have responded to this?
Oh, there you go.
That's another one.
Right? Because
that's another way of
if that's the case, then you could say, okay, then I would do X, Y, Z.
Right.
Then you can answer that, but not what would you do if this happened. It makes it it begs too many questions.
It's too open-ended to have a
follow-up.
Legitimate.
Well, I'll have a question. What was going on? How
what
far was
started
he?
it? Where was it? Is it enclosed? Is there people around?
Because it makes it so. And the people who are able to answer that, they're answering with a technique.
Right.
Or I'm answering with a question.
That's you.
Meaning,
what are we?
What is this? What are the, again, what's the environment? What's the parameters? What if? That would just lead to another question.
And that's what happened in trying to answer that question. I was like, okay, so I get that. Well, what angle are we using the same angle here? Like, is it the same one? Like,
no.
Even before I got into the thing, I was like, wait, I'm not too familiar with his version of angles.
Yeah, with their angles.
I'm not 100% sure what this actually means.
It was just a slash across, a horizontal slash across the body, coming from my left side across to my right side. That's what the question. What would we do against that? It says across the belt.
So that's
it was
the
midline, right? It wasn't to the knees. It wasn't to the neck. It was across our belt.
Okay.
That was so they had some parameters,
right,
as far as where and how it was coming. But the response itself is, to me, one of my first thoughts were, "Where's my weapon at? Do I even have a weapon?
Yeah.
If I'm on the same side as the weapon that's coming at me, would I flow with that, or would I even try and come around and crash with that energy to try and stop it? I'm already here and it's coming across. I would sidestep that, try to maybe a 45 degree to my left as I'm reaching that, right?
Forward step.
Forward step, and going that way. But it's because my weapon is already here. If my weapon's here, do I drop down and do a deflection out this way?
Right. Going back to the mentality
that.
of where are you in
Yeah.
that moment?
Where is my weapon at, or where am I? Do I have a right lead? Do I have a left lead when this is happening? Am I within range? Again, all legitimate questions to try to answer a non-specific question.
Right. And so, like you said, it begs the question in return.
Right.
Always. You're asking for more questions.
Yeah, because isn't that the point that we're trying to accomplish here? And I think that's the point that Dennis is trying to push is how much do we really understand of what we know?
Right.
Yeah.
And that requires questioning. That
Now,
requires
Now, for
thought.
others who don't question, then you have specific mindset. Then you will answer it the way, because you're not questioning all the other possibilities. And if you don't, you can be in trouble because you don't understand there are other possibilities.
Yeah, so sorry, Dennis. That's one of those things we just can't answer based on what you're posing.
We had way too many questions, and
Well,
I
it was
tried answering. I
actually,
really did. And
Grandmaster Green was the one that proposed that question.
Yeah, that particular one, but
Right.
in the
With the
ideas
slash.
of what would you do? I mean,
What would you
because
do?
even with Dennis's query when he was asking about it, it's like where we have the weapon here or here,
Right.
and again, even that.
he answered with the video.
Right.
That posed more questions.
And pose more questions again. So
Within the video.
yeah, so it makes it hard because
It is, but
You
for
know-
the way we train, I think it is. And again, not to knock anybody's process in any way, shape, or form. It's just that for us, it's a malleable situation, and that unless you're in it, you don't really
You
know
can't answer it.
what it is or what it could be.
All the different variables, and to try to take it down to that one answer, it's, again, you're begging for more questions.
And I get it. I'm sure some people might say, "Oh, that's just a cop out." Sure, it could be.
Yeah.
But it's the way we process information, and at the end of it, that's what we're sharing, isn't it?
Yes.
information.
And I
Information.
think Dennis is trying to get everyone else to share through this little format of what would you do.
And
That's
his
the essence.
format in itself has been evolving.
Yes.
From how he started to where the little things that he's doing now with the 30-30 and the talking story in between, it's growing because he's seeing the necessities that are arising in
To
these
share.
situations to
To
share.
share.
Right. Touche.
Touche. So great job,
And
Dennis.
we
We appreciate what you're doing.
that. We are sharing our
Yeah,
thoughts,
Yeah.
And I think
our
by
processes.
posing these things,
Right.
we're hoping that it opens the minds of other people and understand that you can't, throw something in front of somebody and say, "Hey, what would you do in this instance?" Because it's not a fair question. I don't think that could never
see
ever
that.
really be a
So
fair question.
here's another one, right? If the purpose was to get us to think,
Oh,
we're constantly thinking. We are now thinking
Right.
about
then
exactly
that is definitely
that served its purpose.
it served its purpose.
Then I
so,
think this is
yeah.
the answer to
This
get
is
us
the
to
answer.
think
to
about.
get us to think. about
Damn,
what
Dennis
we're
is
doing.
sneaky. He's a sneaky guy.
You gotta
And for
love
me
it.
to come
gotta
up with
love
that
that.
answer right now at this moment, because I'm thinking, it did get me to think
You see
about
the smoke.
this answer.
You see the smoke coming out.
I got this aha moment, this light bulb just come up. Oh, I got it now.
And
It's
3,
for
2,
us to
1.
get us to think.
Good. So, I think now from there, after that, Dennis, I appreciate that he puts these things up.
Right.
What else have you got for us today, Naeem? I know you had some things that you were thinking about.
This is something that I've been really thinking about for the past week or so. The difference between believing something and knowing something. Now, it's hard for me to explain this concept without giving you where it fits in my particular training. So I believe that if I were to get into an altercation, a fist fight, I would be okay. But I know that I don't want to find out.
Yeah, no, of course.
Right, but that's the thing.
And that
is
makes a lot of sense, of course.
But you
Or
see a lot
I
of
know
Uh-huh.
I can be proven wrong.
Exactly. That's the next part of actually knowing.
Yes.
But how many people go from, oh, I believe that I'm really good, I have my black belt, oh, I'm winning tournaments, now I know I'm really good. And I think
Yeah,
that's
and
where
that's
the
even still a
folly.
misnomer.
Well, yeah, but so
That's still a bad way to gauge that.
right,
because you hear these stories about these MMA guys who go to a bar or a gas station, they get the shit beat out of them, but yet they're winning tournaments galore and they're MMA fighters.
Now, who says everybody has a plan until they get punched?
Mike Tyson. And you even quoted him before I did, because I thought of that too. I was like, hey, Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And
believing in your plan,
right,
you're there up to that point.
Until it doesn't work. What do you do then?
So that poses this thing, right? What do I always say to somebody when you get into a fight with somebody? You always say,
assume that they're better than you.
they're better than you.
Right.
So this way you do get your ass kicked.
I was right.
I was right. But until they
expect less of yourself, and when you exceed yourself, then hey, I did good.
Yeah, I survived.
That's right.
I was able to go home today. So
Right.
And
I'm
that,
okay.
folks, is the blade of my mentality.
But no, but that kind of answers that. You know, it kind of poses that. It puts it in the right perspective, doesn't it?
And here's the question that to follow up on that, and this is what I've been mulling over, is how do you determine what to believe and what things you should know to support your belief?
I think we do that with the students on every time we give the lessons, because here's what I've always seen. We show something, we get them to do it,
Okay.
we make them work it to death,
Right.
and near the end of the class, what do? Apply it.
Yeah.
Make it work. Let's
Apply
see.
and validate.
Yeah,
For yourself.
right. So for you to say, okay, I can make this happen, or no, Danny, this doesn't work for me. What do I got to do? then you work at it for the whole week, and you say, okay, and hopefully you come back and say, okay,
Yeah, I got it
figured it out. Now I can make it work. If it doesn't work, make it work.
Okay.
Here's one. In the blade of my mentality, and one of our 10 commandments is to say, execute because we believe, fail because we doubt. What does that mean, right? We execute because we believe in what we're doing. We've trained it, we've applied it, it all works. I believe in what I do. Sure, there are still times where it will fail.
You have to know that.
You have to know that.
Right.
Given the person in front of you, will it work against that guy? Maybe
Who
not.
knows? Who knows?
But I believe that it won't work on this guy. Right? But it will work on this guy. That's the belief. And I know that.
Okay.
Because I can see you and you're like this to me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Execute because we believe, fail because we doubt. If we doubt in any part of our fight,
Okay.
we will tend to pause, freeze, be dumbfounded.
Yeah, lose track of what you're doing.
Oh shit, what do I do now? That
That-
didn't
Oh!
work.
Oh shit,
moment, yeah.
moment. There it is, right? So, and again, going back, believing and knowing, there's this fine line.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, is like, where do you define that line? Where does it become important to really balance between the two? Because it seems like they have to support each other. It's not maybe a
One or
one
the
side,
other.
darker
Now,
or
can
light.
we say that that's going to be different for each individual? Given within the same school, knowing the same thing,
Right.
your own beliefs, as it passes, your own belief based on your own ability.
But I also feel that it differs between each incident. Right?
And
Because you
that
can't
thought
say-
crossed my mind.
You can't say the individual. You gotta say
Right.
in each instance, that guy might be on his worst off day, that you win that battle because
Right.
of what you did.
With the
because-
same fighter.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, because
Right.
that's the thought I was thinking of Pacquiao and Marquez.
Yeah.
Yeah, three
Any
different
given
fights,
day.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
any
and each
given-
one was different, even though they were the same fighters, but each fight was different. And
Right.
and we've always preached that to the students, that each fight is going to be different, no matter what.
And within yourself, you
within
could be
yourself, you could be different too. You could be better, you could be worse. You can be on your best day, or on your worst day.
Right.
So then, how do you teeter that? Because it feels like it's a very fine balance to keep.
Well,
Well,
understanding yourself
right.
every day. We are trying to make ourselves better each day.
Right.
So could it get worse? Still, woke up this morning, it's just on the wrong side of the bed. Cliche. Right? Okay. Wrong side of the bed, but still, my mindset, do I bring that up? How do I get that to raise to a certain level of my awareness
So you have
of
enough
who I am,
belief.
that I have enough belief that I can take on that guy.
And whether
And
you
still
win or
fail.
not,
And still
it's
fail,
irrelevant.
yes, it's
Right.
irrelevant.
Okay. Oh,
The fact
Because
that you
it's your
continue
courage
to
to
try.
continue to fight, and
that's
you
the
keep
part
going.
that I was missing. Okay, because I wasn't reaching a conclusion. And
There
then
is none
I-
until the end of the fight, and whether you win or lost,
That's the
that's
gauge.
that's your conclusion.
That's the gauge of
You know, because you
I
can't
believe.
say, I believe I could do it. I was wrong. And I got the shit beat out of me,
you know,
really badly.
again, jumping 10 feet in the air, jumping
Right.
10 feet forward.
Across.
Right.
Across. One of those you're going to believe.
And work
The other
on
one
it.
you say,
No.
hell no.
Not even a chance.
I believe that I can't do it.
And you already failed.
No, I succeeded.
He succeeded in knowing
No,
that,
I
he was
said-
gonna fail, that he
I
could
know I cannot jump. I know
That's
that
a
I
win.
cannot.
See, but that's and that's the caveat that I was trying to get to, because you at first said I believe I can't do it,
Jump up.
but then
Then you said,
I
know,
know I can't do it. See, and that's the
Yeah.
part that
There it
I
is.
had the back and forth between, because we've mentioned all
Good
these
point.
fights, all these ideas, and that's
Me
why
too.
I said it's important to know the difference between the two. So how do you teach this concept to have each student differentiate
Okay.
between what they know
Okay.
and what they believe?
One of the things that I always talk about is really understanding the definition of certain words, because the definition then will dictate your mindset,
Verbiage, yeah.
the verbiage that we use, believing and knowing, right? Again, what are you trying to believe? What are you trying to know? You will know because of your own ability,
Right.
or what you are capable of.
Okay.
Your believing may not be physical,
Hmm.
but in your heart, you believe
Yeah.
that.
Well,
I
it's
will
like
fight
anybody
to
else.
the
Just,
end.
I think I can win this fight.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's that.
Well,
that's that.
thinking
piece.
and believing is still two
Yeah.
different
Right,
things.
and then that's what I'm talking about. The
Right.
verbiage then becomes that much
But
more
I think
important.
you
That's
still have to
important.
start with that, though. I think I can win this
Well,
fight, so I'm
yes.
going to stay in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I believe I can win the fight.
Or I believe I cannot.
And now you're on the 10th round. I'm having a hard time, guys.
Yeah. Now I'm probably
Yeah.
going to lose.
Right.
I don't know that yet,
Yeah.
But the probability
I
is
but the
getting worse
probability
and worse.
is pretty high, because
He's
I do
already-
know he's punching me
Yeah.
a lot more than I'm punching
All right.
him.
I've already
So-
fell down twice.
the first thing that came to mind, of course, is Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
He just believed it all the way through.
Yeah, all the way to the bitter end
Yeah.
of losing.
Or he changed his mind in the middle, towards 10, 11, 12th round. I just got to keep going.
Right, because it was so hard that he just said, you know what? I just
I've
have
come
to keep
this
doing
far.
it. I've come this far.
Yeah,
I might as well
gotta
just
do
keep it
I
going.
just got to keep it going. Right. And again, the mindset, our heart, how much fight do we have within ourselves to believe in what we do?
And then that sounds like you're believing in yourself rather than believing what you can actually
and not
do.
knowing yourself.
So it just dawned on me what this really equates to, and why I may have had such a difficult time with it. It's character development.
It can be.
Well, 'cause
Understand
you
and
have to
believe in who
develop-
you are. You
yeah.
have to develop you.
You have
and
to
we've
develop
taught
those
that
aspects of
throughout
you.
the class.
Right.
Right. Our fifth level of understanding is really becoming who we're going to be in this martial art community,
Right.
or within ourselves, or where I'm trying to get myself to. After I've learned to teach, which is our fourth level, this now I'm doing this for myself.
Right.
Right. And
My
where
fifth
am I at
level
in
is
my own-
mine,
Right.
and mine alone. And where do I believe in that?
And that's my personal journey, because I think the two of you can attest to the fact that who I was 6 years ago to who I am today,
Oh, definitely.
completely different
Yes.
people.
Yeah, night and day. Sure.
But that's been a difficult
still
journey
suck.
for me. Thanks.
Against us.
Vote of confidence. I love
Against
it.
us. Anybody else, you're okay.
But that's still something that I struggled with in that concept
Right.
of really believing what am I capable of. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to grow any further, and I'm just going to keep repeating the same.
Well, and I think in your defense, you and I play a lot. We go at each other pretty strong.
yeah.
We don't, we might go to like 60-70% of striking. We just try to hit each other. Because
Yeah.
we do, right? I mean, what do we care?
Oh,
We were just
man.
up there a little while ago with the pads on and
Oh, yeah.
everything. We have helmets and the whole bit, but we don't put them on.
No.
Why? Because we're like, who cares? Right? That is not even an issue. We understand what we're capable of. But even then, we're going full bore.
Right.
and somebody was quick to say, "Oh, Naeem beat Rick." I'm like, yeah, looking on the outside, sure, yeah, he was hit me in the head, blah blah blah. But I took that portion of our sparring as a lesson for me to try to work on an idea, and
You weren't really fighting per se,
no,
but testing yourself
Right.
and your ideas within the fight is
right,
what you were
because
trying
that's
to
better for me to
accomplish.
do in that instance rather than
Then just win.
yeah, than try to go, oh.
So
I mean,
you were 100% right in what you were doing, even though he did get those licks in.
right.
That wasn't even the problem.
But you
The
knew
problem
that
is
wasn't your purpose.
No,
that's not the purpose.
that wasn't my thing to try to win that fight that way. I wanted to see certain